Welcome back to my channel. I am Tiffany, and I've been really itching to talk about this topic, and the topic is self-trust and creating a life that you love, creating a life that has more ease in it. So have a seat, take it easy. I really want this to be a conversation. I really want you to hear me out because I'm sure you clicked on this video because we're aligned in some way. So there's something in this video that's going to be really useful for you in this particular part of your journey. And the thing about creating a life of more ease is that it does not come from outside of you. You create the ease, right? You decide that, hey, I want this to be easier, whether through emotional regulation or you're choosing something that is an easier thing. But sometimes when it's easier, it doesn't mean it's easier on you mentally. So really understanding, like, what does that mean for you? And if you think back on all of the times when you actually developed more confidence and more self-trust, those things came from you deciding to take a risk, make a hard decision, and then you realized, oh, actually, I'm actually really good at this thing, or I actually developed a lot more confidence in myself because I did this really hard thing and I proved to myself that I could actually do it. So let me tell you a story. I am currently living in Mexico. I've been living in Mexico for about a year and a half. And so I'm an immigrant here, and I was an immigrant in the United States as well for most of my life because I was born in Jamaica. I grew up pretty low income and also in a pretty rough childhood. And that taught me a lot about myself, but more so retrospectively because when I grew up and I unpacked, blah, 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 blah. But when I grew up, when I went to college and I decided to, pursue a particular career path, I did that because I initially thought I would be a nurse, and then I initially wanted to be a social worker. And I did a lot of those things in terms of my early career because I thought, it would fulfill something outside of me, or I was looking for something else outside of me rather than trying to understand like what was actually aligned to me. The thing about constantly choosing things that are outside of you in order to fulfill you, choosing a career path that you think is going to fulfill you or make you happy, is that it limits you. It takes away your autonomy because you're not making the decision from a place of alignment. And then it teaches you that, perhaps you shouldn't trust your own intuition, or perhaps you shouldn't trust your own strengths. So of course it makes sense where most of us are at right now, where we have to figure out, well, what are the different ways I can make money? You don't even understand your own strengths, your own talents, your own skills, because you've been going against that for so long. So how would you be able to recognize, well, yeah, I can bring in a whole ecosystem of income if I knew this, because you don't consider certain things strengths. So what I actually want to talk about is, how can you move from a place of, well, like, I've been doing this my whole career and this is what I know, to actually I can do these other things and make more money. Don't worry, we're going to talk about that. Notice how every time you build confidence in yourself, you do it because you did something really hard, you took a risk, you decided to bet on yourself, and then through that experience you learned, hey, I'm okay. I made it through. Every hard thing in your life, you made it through. And then you gain trust in yourself. You gain confidence in yourself because you realize, actually, it all works out. But sometimes we just leave it there. We don't actually keep pushing the limit for ourselves because we think, oh, like, that worked for that, but it won't work for something else. And the thing is, well, yeah, like, sometimes you might fail. But in that failing, which, if you want to say that, I don't really believe in failure per se, but if you decide that you're done, then you don't give yourself that opportunity to actually grow and expand in the areas that experience could teach you. So I'm going to get a little bit more personal and say, in my own experience, prior to 5 years ago, I was in a job that I didn't enjoy. I was in a relationship that was not aligned with me. I was entertaining a lot of toxic family dynamics, if you will. There was just a lot of different systems, a lot of different boxes that I was putting myself in that was honestly suffocating myself. That was honestly suffocating me. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. But it's like, okay, what does that have to do with money? I'll tell you, because when we continuously put ourselves in these boxes and these limitations, it could be being in a corporate job that stifles you, or it could literally be in a relationship where you're not happy. It could literally be in a religion that you don't really fully believe in. Any system at all where you're just not completely in it, but you decide to choose it and it takes up a lot of your space and time, you maybe try to convince yourself that it's okay. These things lead you away from understanding who you really are. And I do 100% believe that the way that everything is going right now, you have to be so tuned into who you actually are and what your strengths are in order to succeed. And what that relies on is trust in self, trusting yourself in order to figure it out. No matter what happens, you're going to figure it out. And currently, what I'm seeing with a lot of people when living abroad and talking to people that have their own businesses or work remotely, they're always pivoting, they're always figuring it out, because what they've done is they prioritized giving themselves what they want. And they know that it's going to happen regardless. There's so many different pieces, and I've worked for years in like one space in career coaching, helping people with resumes and helping people get a job and interviewing. But I know that outside of all of that is, okay, what does this person actually want? What makes them happy? What are they good at? What do people compliment them on at work, outside of work? And how can they use that in other ways? However, for me, 5 years ago, I was just in such a dark place. I was depressed. I didn't really enjoy the career that I had chosen. I had gotten my master's degree. I didn't really feel fulfilled in that. I had to leave my engagement. I had to cut off a lot of toxic family members. And sometimes when you're starting from the absolute bottom, it's honestly easier than trying to pivot from the middle or pivot from a place that's just kind of man, I don't know if you've heard of the boiling frog. I think they call it the boiling frog analogy, where it's like things don't have to be that bad. It has to be really, really bad for you to want to change it. Please don't wait until it's really, really, really bad for you to change your circumstances. But that's where I was. I was just in a place where I was like, I can't take this anymore. I can't continue to uphold these unhealthy dynamics in terms with my family, with my relationships, with even with my belief system. And that was a lot of my identity. And sometimes we wrap our identity in things that are not true or are not really who we are. And these things take us away from who we really are, or understanding our own strengths. And you're not able to trust yourself if you're not exactly sure what your identity is. Granted, it's okay for you to change and grow and adapt and be flexible in the course of your life, but there's a certain amount of wiggle room that you have to allow when you are grounded in your knowing of like, I know this is who I am and I know these are my strengths. You move from a different place and you realize there are people who take the risks to change their life. They're people who, they seem to know themselves really well. They're very grounded in who it is that they are. So once I decided to end a lot of these toxic dynamics with my family, with my friends, with my belief system, and then also decide to change my whole career, I took that risk, and it was so scary. It was so scary. Like, it was genuinely some of the scariest things I've ever experienced in my life, but it was also the most rewarding. And I don't believe that I would have gotten the confidence in myself if it wasn't for having gone through all of those things. So in building self-trust through leaving my toxic family dynamics and my toxic relationship dynamics, I was like, you know what, actually, I'm okay with being seen. I'm okay with being perceived. And it made me a lot more comfortable with doing things like posting on the internet and sharing my experiences, sharing my wisdom, how I make money, right? These things are very vulnerable experiences that it's like when at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, what does it even matter? Because you're the one living your life. And if you're not happy doing it because you're living your life for other people, or you're living it for some idea of, oh, this is what I should do, or, let me stay safe. But if you want to think about what's going on, you really should give yourself the opportunity to be more expansive, to trust yourself more. That, hey, oh yeah, like I am really good at this. I made a little bit of money doing this, but I didn't really spend enough time doing it. So let me actually give myself that chance. And that is really what I want to motivate you all to do. I know I kind of been all over the place with my story, but the thing is, left my job, decided to work in career coaching, but doing it from a place of authenticity instead of forcing people into accounting because that's what they've been doing. Well, maybe there's a way that you can offer your services to people who have been through this particular thing, and that could be more fulfilling for you. And I just really, really enjoy doing that. That is like, I love having conversations with people about what it is that they genuinely enjoy doing and pairing it with how they can make money. And as someone who has done that for herself, I have offered my services and my 13 plus years of career coaching experience, resume writing, consulting, freelancing, working in the creative UX space and designing, all of those things, offering it in different ways, in different packages and digital products. I have realized, there's actually like a plethora of ways to bring money in. And once you let go of the fear of not being grounded in something in particular, you give yourself so much more freedom to make money in other ways. I promise you. So if you want to talk about ways that you can do that for yourself, then you can set up a one-on-one with me. So if you're someone who's actually ready to make money digitally, you have to be willing to work on self-trust, which is a large part of what I focus on in the Digital Income Academy. So it's starting June 1st. I have 30 seats to coach people over the course of the next 3 months to make income digitally, and it won't be heavy. I make sure that it is digestible for you. We'll focus on remote job searching if that's what you need, making digital products, offering your services online, creating content, and a plethora of things in between. So that way you can actually make income for this new world that we're moving into. If you want to be successful in the current job market, we see everything changing, we see everything moving around. In order to be successful, you have to be willing to be flexible. Having one income is just not the way anymore, but if you're unsure how to navigate that, then this academy is for you. This is for you. Over the course of the next 3 months, starting on June 1st, we will focus on identifying your particular gifts and your talents, which of those gifts and talents can help you bring in income, and what things to focus on so that you can be ready to make digital income from anywhere, whether that is leaving the US or staying in the US, but basically just giving you freedom in a number of ways, not just making money through a 9-to-5, because as we can see, that's not really the best way to go about it anymore. If that's something you're interested in, grab a seat. We have a few more days, or you can set up a one-on-one with me. We can talk through some of your initial options, whether that is finding remote work or consulting or fractional work, whatever it might be, and get you set up with your resume, your LinkedIn, and your personal branding. And we can also address, we could also create a plan for you to build income in other ways. So I know that was, I think that was pretty short. More to come. I'll be creating more content. About what this actually looks like, but I just wanted to kind of give a summary. At the end of the day, self-trust is really going to take you far. Until next time,